Okay, so I've got video on now as well, so let me know if you can see anything. In theory, you should be able to see. Oh, but you can see. All right, so I'm not sitting where I used to sit, but you can see me. Audio is messed up. Now hearing and seeing you fine. Okay, so probably what might happen is because the okay, so what here in India, the speed of the internet goes up and down. Usually this time of the morning, not many people are using it, so it's okay. So if the sound breaks up or the picture breaks up, then just on the chat let me know, and then we'll have to take the picture off. Because otherwise, without the picture, it should be fine. So, if anybody can't see or hear me well, let me know. We're taking a gamble here, because if we just do the audio, we won't have a problem. But I think it's more effective if you can see me. You pay better attention. Okay? So, welcome Sheetal. Nice to see. Well, I can't see you. You can see me. And R is here. Pallavi, of course, Leslie. Nice to see you. So far, so good. Okay, so according to my watch, it's 3 minutes after. 3 minutes after 8, New York time. 3 minutes after 5, Vancouver time. And 6:33, India time. And yes, welcome Leela Krishna. So, we're going to continue reading. I'm going to just read a little bit of what we read yesterday because it leads into another section that won't make sense unless we read back a few sentences. So, if you have any questions about anything, then please ask. So the goal of this class is to help you in any way necessary, and not necessarily just to cover the topic only. So if anything in any way relates to the topic, we can address it as we did last week, and I think that was a good idea. I think we got a lot accomplished. Okay, so we're reading from the Jaiva Dharma. Put the recorder on. We're reading from the Jaiva Dharma, and Jaiva Dharma means the dharma of the jiva. So, I just want to describe the word dharma. And sometimes we will translate dharma as doing what's right. But that's not exactly what it means, because it means doing what is right according to Shastra. Now, we may do what is right according to what we feel is right, but that's not dharma. I mean, it may end up being dharma because what you're doing may be dharmic, but the consciousness is not, because I feel it's right or I consider it's right, it's dharmic. But dharma actually comes from Shastra. So sometimes we think we're being dharmic because we're doing the right thing, but it's not in line with Shastra. So technically speaking, that's not dharmic. That's just doing something right, which of course could be relative to a particular situation or a particular time. Things which were right 100 years ago may not be right now. So that's relative right, but dharma is something which is always right. So, and then when we say Jaiva Dharma, the dharma of the jiva, then in terms of bhakti, we understand that as devotional service. But in terms of ordinary dharma, then Krishna says, give up that ordinary dharma, give up anything which is not pure devotional service. So at the end of the Gita, when Krishna is saying sarva dharma, give up dharma, he means give up anything but pure bhakti. because he taught about karma yoga, he taught about jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, these other paths. So he's saying those are all mixed forms of bhakti. So just surrender it unto me, that is Sanatana Dharma, but in this sense, it means giving up all these other, what we can generally consider to be dharma, at least from the Indian perspective. Now, some people are very attached to dharma. They're more attached to dharma than they are to Krishna. So that's where we get sidetracked. Just attached to doing things the right way. You have Brahmins in India. They're very attached to doing things the right way. So what becomes important to them is the ritual, or how the mantra is chanted. The practice, doing it right, is what is important. And in bhakti, love is important. And so we would say doing what is right is what develops love of Krishna. That's important. So sometimes we can get attached to just the external, just the process or the mechanics of something, and think, well, that's successful because I'm doing it properly. But, dharmically, let's say, according to Shastra, you did it dharmically, but it doesn't mean you did it right. Last week or 2 weeks ago we read, when was it? I was giving class to the Russian devotees, and in the purport, Prabhupada said that anything that does not lead to Krishna consciousness is sinful. So that could be something which is dharmic in a Vedic sense, but if done in the wrong consciousness, if it's only done for the sake of doing it, it doesn't lead to Krishna, then in the absolute definition, that's sinful. It's an interesting definition. Anything that doesn't lead to Krishna consciousness is sinful. So, but here in Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he's talking about dharma, he means the dharma that I am servant, which, interestingly, is what we're going to be reading now. So, let me put on my reading glasses. I'm at that age, folks, I'm doing good otherwise, but reading is a little tough. I mean, I could read without them, but whatever. Hare Krishna. So, Krishna's qualities are also present in the jivas, but only in a minute quantity. Krishna is supremely independent, so the desire to be independent is eternally present in the jivas as well. When the jiva uses his independence correctly, he remains disposed towards Krishna. But when he misuses it, he becomes opposed to him. It is just this opposition that gives rise to the desire in the jiva's heart to enjoy Maya. Because of the desire to enjoy Maya, he develops the false ego that he can enjoy material sense gratification. And then the 5 types of ignorance. So we're going to describe these 5 types of ignorance, but first I wanted to put out an interesting thought. Here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, Babaji Maharaj is saying, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, but Babaji Maharaj, the character is Babaji Maharaj. He's saying, because Krishna has independence, we're part and parcel of Krishna. We also have independence. Now, question has come up earlier, why did Krishna give us independence if we could misuse it? And there's a very common question people ask. But when you look at the question, inherent in the question is there is some need or desire or consciousness to blame God. Say, well, Krishna, why did you give me independence? You know everything. So you knew I would misuse it. And now I've come to this world and I've suffered in all species of life and I'm still suffering. How could you do that to me? That's so cruel. Don't you love me? So if we tear that argument apart, what we're essentially saying is, it's Krishna's fault that I came to the material world because he gave me the free will choice. And because he gave me that free will choice, I was able to misuse it. So really, it's not my fault, it's Krishna's fault. That's what that argument, when we ask that question, underlying that question is that argument. And not argument as much, well, it's an argument, but more so than an argument, it's blaming God. Well, how could you do this to me? It's your fault. If you didn't give me independence, free will independence, I wouldn't have had the choice. I couldn't have chosen to come to the material world, and now I'm suffering, so it's your fault. No. Whatever choice we make, we always have to understand whatever choice we make, we have to take responsibility for. And as I said last week, Krishna has given us free will choice, but it's important to understand it's that free will choice that gets us out of the material world. So rather than sitting around blaming Krishna for giving us the ability to choose to ignore him, we should thank him that he's given us the free will to choose to serve him. Now, another important point, a really important point, is that sometimes the material world is very overpowering, and sometimes we feel as if we don't have a choice. We feel that Maya is so strong, we don't even have a choice. I mean, sometimes it feels like I have so little willpower. Especially when we're under the influence of ignorance. It feels like I practically have no willpower. But no matter how much ignorance we're in, we always have choice. And we can always use that choice to chant Hare Krishna and pull ourselves out of ignorance. So it's always there. So don't ever think you don't have the choice, no matter how difficult it is to make. You should understand you always have that choice. So we're swimming in the ocean of ignorance, but still within that ocean of ignorance, Krishna has given us this choice. And there's always this choice to serve him. There's always the choice we can make to pull ourselves out of Maya. So it's not like Krishna's put us into this situation and there's nothing we can do about it. It may seem that way, especially if we're in the mode of ignorance, or we allow the mode of ignorance to control us. It may seem that way, but it's never that way. So it's an important point to understand. No matter how bad things are, no matter how addicted we are to sense gratification, we always have the choice to stop it and serve Krishna. Krishna never takes that away. That would be quite unkind of him if he did. That would be like the Christian philosophy. You're going to hell on a one-way ticket. I had one godbrother, he used to say, he said, wait a minute. If a father or mother punish their child incessantly because they, for some reason, didn't believe something they said, they would be arrested. And here you're saying that God does that. God, the personification of love, puts someone into eternal damnation. That makes God, by American standards of law, he would be arrested and imprisoned for torturing his children. Interesting concept. So, Krishna consciousness, it deals with that in this point, very clearly. No, we always have independence. We can, whatever mess we've created for ourselves, we can always get out of it. So just understand whenever we ask or anyone asks the question, why did God give us independence if he knew we would misuse it? We're trying to blame God for our condition. And it's not the way the world works. Okay? So, yes, we're taking a chance, Senya, that you can see me, because if the internet slows down, then we're going to have trouble. I don't know. Him and I are the very same being. The same being in quality, yes. Yeah, we have the, as we just read, because Krishna has free will and we're part and parcel, we also have free will. It can't be any other way. So, yes. Okay. So let's continue reading. Now, what Babaji Maharaj is going to describe here are 5 kinds of ignorance. So I'll read the preceding sentence. Because of the desire to enjoy Maya, he develops the false ego. He means us. That he can enjoy material sense gratification. And so he's saying, okay, the false ego, as we discussed last week, false ego means the Savior, excuse me, Hare Krishna. The false ego, as we discussed last week, false ego means I'm the enjoyer. Excuse me. I'm the enjoyer. So, Krishna is the enjoyer. As we said, we're the enjoyed. We enjoy by being enjoyed by Krishna. So, false ego, we develop the false ego that I am the enjoyer. And what do I enjoy? I enjoy, separately from Krishna, that means I enjoy matter. So then it identifies us as a body. If I can enjoy matter, I must be matter. If I'm spirit, how can I really enjoy matter? So, but in order to be able to enjoy matter, you can't really enjoy it if you think you're spirit. So some ignorance is required in order to so-called enjoy. Does that make sense? In other words, just like let's say you want to enjoy something, and I give you a lecture about how it's impossible to enjoy that for so many reasons. You may not want to hear that, and that will rain on your parade. And what you'd rather think is of all the reasons you can enjoy it, but all those reasons, from my perspective, are ignorance. And as long as you're in that ignorance, then you think, yes, I can be happy if I do this. So ignorance is required to enjoy materially, at least to think you're enjoying. So that's what's being described here. Okay. So you need ignorance to enjoy materially. Otherwise, if you're purely enlightened, then you see the body as only a vehicle, and the senses to be employed in Krishna's service, and yourself as servant and not the body. And so because you have too much knowledge, you won't be able to enjoy it. It's like a lot of times what happens, somebody becomes a devotee, and they find when they become a devotee, they gain enough knowledge that they can enjoy materially. But they're not advanced enough in Krishna consciousness that they're really relishing spiritual life. So then they get caught in this situation where they're not able to enjoy materially, but they can't enjoy spiritually either. Yeah. So welcome in Zimzu. And in Zimzu, apologize for being late, and I have a mantra for you, everyone. If you're on time, consider yourself late. Okay? If you're on time, consider yourself late. So according to etiquette, just so you know, just etiquette between teacher and student, the student should be there before the teacher shows up. So I show up on time. So ideally, the good student should be there. And even if you're on time, consider yourself late. You should be early waiting for the teacher. That's generally, at least traditional Vedic relation between disciple and guru or student. The guru means the teacher. The teacher is guru. Doesn't have to be your guru, but he's the guru while he's teaching. That's the etiquette. Then the students are waiting. And then the teacher comes in. So, okay, and Zimzu's forgiven because she had to talk to her mother. We should honor our mother, yes. Okay, all right. Yes. Anyway, it's something that I talk about a lot because I see we all have a tendency to not keep time so correctly. So let's have this new mantra that If you're on time, consider yourself late. If you show up at 8 o'clock exactly, or whatever your time is, 5 o'clock for Leslie, you're late. You showed up at right on time, that means you're late. You show up early. There's one devotee who runs a company, and whenever they have board meetings, if the meeting's at 10 o'clock, that's when the door closes and it's locked. So if you come at 10:01, you miss the meeting. There was actually a man who did a very expensive seminar. If you were late, the door was locked, you were sent home. Not even that you could come to the next session. That was it. And there was no refund. So I like telling devotees that the Krishna conscious movement, it's as Prabhupada said in the Bhagavatam, it's meant to create a revolution. I said, how are we going to create a revolution? We can't even show up on time. And in India there was this idea that ISKCON was the CIA, and then it got back to America, and so our movement was investigated. And what they found out is that in most temples, if you call a temple, if it's a well-organized temple, they'll answer the phone. In most temples, you can't even get someone to answer the phone. There's not enough devotees, or for whatever reason. And so that when they reported, they said, you have no worries about the Hare Krishna movement. They're not a threat. They can't even answer their own telephones. So we can't answer our own phones. We can't even show up on time. We're not a threat. And Prabhupada has created a movement that's supposed to create a revolution. And we can't even answer our phones and show up on time. Hare Krishna. So, at least, show up on time, answer your phone, and answer your emails within 24 hours. Then at least there's a chance we can take over the world, right? Maybe not in 18 days, but at some point we could. All right? Okay. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay. So let's go back to the 5 kinds of ignorance. Okay. So because of the desire to enjoy Maya, he develops the false ego that he can enjoy material sense gratification. And then the 5 types of ignorance. Tamisra, the first. Number 1, Tamisra, forgetfulness of one's constitutional position due to anger or envy. So, you want to enjoy materially, you have to forget you're a servant of Krishna. And then it's said due to anger or envy, which means envy of Krishna or anger at Krishna. You want to be like Krishna. Why can't I be like Krishna? Why does he have all the girlfriends and not me? Why does he have all the money and not me? Why does he have all the fun and not me? And then that envy manifests with people. Why does she have everything? Why does he have everything? So that envy that we have towards one another, its origins are an envy of Krishna, and it ultimately reflects an envy of Krishna. And then sometimes someone might say, well, I'm not really envious of God. And say, are you envious of anybody else? Because if you are, that's a manifestation of your envy of God, though you don't recognize it, but it is. So the first, ignorance, we forget who we are, and we act out this role of enjoyer motivated by an envy of Krishna. Okay, not a happy. So you can understand that with this one thing, how miserable that consciousness is, and how impossible it is to enjoy if we have that consciousness. Let's go to the next one. Anda Tamisra, considering death to be the ultimate end. All right, when body dies, I'm finished. So how does that help one enjoy? Well, no responsibility. I mean, after all, when I die, everything's finished. So I can do anything as long as people say, just enjoy, don't hurt anybody. But of course, they hurt. We hurt animals when we eat. We hurt so many people. Knowingly or unknowingly. So, but the idea is if everything ends with the body, then I can do whatever I want. There's no responsibility. There's no karma, no reaction after I die. Maybe there's a reaction while I'm alive, but nothing after I die. So this, the idea of morality then just becomes what makes people feel good, not the question of what's right. In other words, let's get together and decide what makes us feel good, and we'll call that good. And let's decide what doesn't make us feel good, and that'll be called bad, and that's our morality. And as you see, morality changes, right? What was moral 100 years ago wow, now, no, what was immoral 100 years ago, now is normal. You won't even bat an eye. What would cause people to faint, the immorality that would cause people to faint 100 years ago, now, sophisticated, well-to-do people, that's just normal. Isn't it? Relative morality. Okay. So we have tamishra, ignorance, then we have andatamishra, double ignorance. Anda means darkness. Tamishra also means darkness or ignorance. Then we have tamas, not knowing anything about spirit soul. So you have no idea that you're anything other than a body. As long as that's the whole point I was making, is that when you become a devotee, you realize you're not the body. Then if you take it in the wrong way, then it's like, oh, bummer. Now I realize why, when I tried to enjoy, it didn't work, because I'm not the body. But I still have the desire to enjoy the body. And as I said in previous talks, you think you're the body, so you're very beautiful, you're very intelligent, you're very talented. And now we tell you, no, you're not that beauty, you're not that talent, you're not that intelligence. So what am I? Well, you're just this little soul, 1/10,000th the size of a hair. Now, for some people, that's like blissful, but for other people, that's very difficult to accept. No, I'm this beautiful young girl, I'm intelligent, and I'm a nice person. No, you're not any of those. You're 1/10,000th the size of a hair. Get off your cloud. That can be difficult to accept. So, if I just forget that I'm 1/10,000th the size of a hair and I identify with my body and I make my body very strong, very beautiful, I become very well educated and learned, then I can enjoy my body. And if I have a nice house, paint the walls the nice right color, the right furniture, a nice stereo system, eat the right food, everything to please my senses, then I'll be happy. So there's something very interesting if you look at this. If a person's depressed and they go to a therapist, a psychologist, the psychologist will never say, what you need is more sense gratification. What you need to do, because you're depressed because you don't have an iPod. So go buy an iPod. That's your problem. They'll never say you need more things. They'll never say, most of them, maybe sex therapists are different, but they'll never say you need more sense gratification. They'll help you deal with your attitude, with the way you're looking at yourself in the world. So if sense gratification is really the cause of happiness, why aren't all these therapists telling people, well, the reason you're depressed is you didn't go shopping yesterday. If you would have went shopping and bought something, you'd be fine. They don't tell them that. I hope they don't tell them that. If they do, they should be fired. Take their license away. Right? Does that make sense? So here, it says, it's interesting, they're all very similar. Not knowing anything about spirit soul, which means, okay, ignorance can be sustained as long as you don't get any spiritual knowledge. It's like some Hare Krishna comes up to you and says, hey, what are you doing? You're not the body. And you say, don't rain on my parade. I'm enjoying my body. I don't want to think I'm not the body. So, as long as there's no knowledge there, you can keep enjoying your body. Then the next one sounds similar, but we have to distinguish it. The next one is moha, the illusion of bodily concept of life. So one is, you have no way, you make sure you remain in ignorance. And the other one is kind of basking in the illusion of the bodily conception of life, which really means pampering it. In this age, we are expert in pampering the body. It's all about pampering the body. If you want to make a lot of money, open a business that pampers the body. Everyone's going to come. You're going to get rich, because everyone wants their body pampered. Because that's the only... if a person's in the bodily concept of life, their whole understanding of pleasure is only relative to the body. They can't understand pleasure beyond the body. There's no experience of it. So it's all about, is my body comfortable? Isn't it? You can spend $800 on an office chair. They're really comfortable and really good for your back. Unlike my chair that I'm sitting in, because I'm so renounced. I don't sit in an $800 chair. But you can, and you can spend thousands and thousands on beds and sofas and comfortable cars and like that. If you have the money, you will. It's just the way it is. I mean, look at how the world works. People don't make millions of dollars and generally just put a cushion on the floor and that's their couch. No. Comfort. So, because we only know pleasure through the body, and so the more we can make it comfortable and the more we can gratify it, then that we think higher on the scale the sense gratification goes, the higher on the scale the comfort goes, the more there's happiness. We don't think about the higher I elevate my consciousness. People don't generally think that way. They just think the higher level of sense gratification I get, the happier I'll be. And the thing is, it doesn't work, and they know it doesn't work, and they're still doing it. So the ignorance is pretty deep. At least for us as devotees, we may still do it, but at least we understand it doesn't work, even though sometimes by habit we may do it. But people who are in ignorance, it doesn't work, and they don't see it doesn't work. Or even they see it doesn't work, they don't admit it doesn't work. Somehow they can't put two and two together. Now, Prabhus, I was thinking that the nature of this discussion is such that even new devotees, I think this relates to us and it relates to new devotees, even new people. So all of you, if you like, you can invite new people to listen to these classes, because I think it's relevant to all levels of devotional service. So you could all bring 5 friends next week. We'll have a nice assembly of devotees here. Okay, so let's read on. And Mahamoha. So we have 3 kinds of ignorance. Tamishra is ignorance, Anda Tamishra, and then Tamas is also a different variety of ignorance. And then we have Moha, which means illusion, bodily concept, and then we have Mahamoha, madness for material enjoyment. Oh, madness for material enjoyment. So what does this mean? I think this relates to the last point I'm making. I'm just taking it further. Mad to enjoy. Just do all kinds of austerity to get material enjoyment. Just like we have this nice example. I don't know if you know this story. Bilvamangala Thakur. It's a story of Bilvamangala Thakur. It's a very interesting story. And it perfectly exemplifies this Maha-moha, madness to enjoy. So Bilvamangala Thakur was raised as a Brahmin, but at some point he had fallen from his Brahminical life. It said that he had even achieved the stage of bhava. Bhava is a preliminary stage of love of Godhead. It's when love of Godhead begins to sprout, but it's not prema yet. And that one can actually fall from that stage. So he fell from that stage. He became degraded. And he used to see a prostitute. And Prabhupada said, well, actually it was his girlfriend. Maybe he was paying her, I don't know. But Prabhupada said, girlfriend, if you're not married to a girl and you're not following all the 4 regular principles, Prabhupada said, that means prostitute. We don't look at prostitute in our culture that way, but from the Vedic point of view, if you have sex before marriage, you're a prostitute. So at least get the guy to pay you. Make some money if you're going to do it. Hare Krishna. So, Prabhupada said that. It was his girl. Everybody said, everyone tells a story, it's his girlfriend. He was going to see, everybody tells a story he was going to see a prostitute. And Prabhupada said, actually, it was his girlfriend. But because they weren't married, that meant she was a prostitute. She was prostituting herself to her boyfriend. Different way of looking. Modern society doesn't look at it that way, but that's the Vedic perspective. No sex outside of marriage, right? So, what happened is he had attended his father's funeral. And he really wanted to go see her, so he kind of cut corners on the funeral. Interesting. Get it over with so he could go see his girlfriend. He was in a very fallen state. He had fallen very low. And what happened was that this evening he was really, really anxious to see her, but there was a terrible storm. And so it was dangerous, not advisable. You know, like they have, at least in America, when there's a hurricane coming, they have advisories that say, stay put, go into shelter. So it was probably something like that. But anyway, he went anyway. And so he came to the river. He had to cross a river. There's no way to get across. And he saw a log. So he jumped on the log. And then the log took him to the other side of the river. But actually it wasn't a log. It was a dead body. So it's getting quite Hollywood here, isn't it? True story. He cuts to the other side of the river and realizes that was a dead body. Oh my God. So then, because there's this intense storm and rain and wind, she locks her gate because she figures, well, there's no business today. Nobody's going to come. Bilba Mangala Thakur is not going to come. Lo and behold, he comes and he's banging on the gate, but she can't hear. So he climbs over the gate. I think he injures himself. I don't know. I don't remember the details. We could make it more let's make it a little Hollywood here. So he climbs up this huge gate. I think it was a snake there that was trying to attack him. I think this is true. I didn't Hollywood. I said I think there was a snake. And then there was all these obstacles, right? And then climbs over, falls over, hurts himself. Has to, I don't know, climb up to her window, bang on it, risk his life like that. So basically, he came close. Anyway, he came close to injuring himself, even risking his life. So she could not believe that any man in his right mind would come to her in that kind of weather. It's like there's a hurricane coming or a tornado coming, and you walk down the street to go see your girlfriend because you just can't control yourself. And the roofs of houses are blowing off, and you're just walking down the street. Something like that, just crazy. So she couldn't believe it. And she knew in his younger life he was a Brahmin. And I guess she knew that there was some desire within him to again take up that life. And I guess she felt that he could do it. And she said, just look at what you did. If you did that for Krishna, just think what a great devotee you would be. And that went very deep into his heart. At that moment he left for Vrindavan. That's another story. But the point we're making here is that we're talking about Mahamoha, great madness. It's what he did for sense gratification. So what people do to enjoy their senses, how hard they work, how much pain they'll take from their bosses, how much pain they'll take from their partners just to enjoy. There's like this madness. I was telling my wife yesterday, we were going to the temple about 7 in the morning, and somehow the weather here, it's actually colder at 7 than it is at 4 o'clock. So I came back to get her around 7. I said I'd driven to the temple from Mangalartik. I said, it's colder now than it was 7 o'clock. And so we're driving on, we have a motor scooter because we live about a mile from the temple, so we're driving on the motor scooter. And the wind, I think it knocks the temperature down. In Fahrenheit, 5 or 10 degrees. I don't know what that is in centigrade. But so if it was probably like 58 degrees out yesterday or 60 degrees in the morning, but on the motorcycle it was 10 degrees, 60. So 60 is like, 50, so it comes down to 50. In centigrade, 50 is what? Like 10 or something like that. So I was telling my wife, I said, when I was a kid, we would go surfing in weather like this. She was like freezing and had a jacket and a sweater on. She was like, oh my God, how could you do that? And I said, yeah, imagine being wet in weather like this with wind blowing on you at 20 miles an hour. That's what we used to do. Crazy, right? So she was saying, well, what she was saying the payoff isn't worth it. The suffering, you suffer so much, and you get one wave and you ride it for 20 seconds. So that's a good wave. You may only ride it for 8 seconds. And you may have, and she's like, and you sit out there waiting for 20 minutes to get a good wave? I said, yes, but the bliss. But you don't know. The bliss of surf, but you get that one wave, it's all worth it. And she's looking at this going, you're nuts. It's not worth it, you're just suffering. And I said, yes. And in Santa Cruz, California, the water and the air temperature is in the 40s and the water's in the 40s. Who can translate that into centigrade? In the 40s, that means like 5. In 5 or 6 or 7 degrees, the water and the air, and they're out there surfing. So that's what this means. Maha Moha means crazy. They're crazy. They do, all kinds of austerities to enjoy. It's true. I mean, think about it. Just a madness to enjoy at any cost, whatever it takes. We just have to enjoy. Risk my life, climb the Himalayas, climb Mount Everest. I don't care. I want to enjoy. Maha Moha. Hare Krishna. 5 kinds of ignorance. We got ourselves in a big problem. 4 degrees is 44. So yeah. Santa Cruz, California, it's Northern California. People are out right now surfing. It's 4 degrees and the water is the same temperature. Is that mad? Anybody like to join them? Even if I give you a free ticket to Santa Cruz, would you like to join them now? And sometimes the waves there get very big, like 10, 15 feet. And if you get caught and thrown under, you may not come up for a few minutes. And if you get caught out very far in that water, you can get hypothermia. And you may not even be able to swim in. I mean, is that Maha Moha? The surfers are in major Maha Moha. Hare Krishna. I can speak from experience. Okay. Let's read on. So, all these things cover his pure atomic nature. Our liberation or subjugation simply depends on whether we use our minute independence properly or misuse it. So then we're going back to this point again. It's like, you can't blame Krishna that you misused your independence. You take responsibility. You said, I'm the one who misused it, so I can use it properly. So all that's really being said here is that if we want to misuse our independence, Krishna says, okay, no problem. But if you want to think that you can enjoy, because if you ask people out there, you're happy, they'll say, yeah, I'm enjoying, I'm happy. Especially on Saturday or Friday night. They may not say that on Monday morning, but they'll, if they're having a good time, catching some good waves, going to a party with their girlfriend or boyfriend, doing this and that, they'll say, yeah, I'm happy, I'm having a good time. How can you think you're happy and having a good time? What Krishna's saying here is, okay, you want to enjoy independently, all right, here's how it works. I cover you up with these kinds of ignorance, and then you can think you're happy. And when it gets really bad, you can be a drunk in the street. That's where you live. You haven't taken a bath in weeks. Your face is cut up because you keep falling over or getting in fights. And you can think, here, I'm happy. Right? Everything's fine out here. As long as you get enough to drink. So now you understand how spiritual knowledge works. Spiritual knowledge cuts through this ignorance. And then you realize, yes, I'm not the body. I thought I could enjoy. I'm actually servant. You realize all these things. So it's the beginning of Krishna consciousness, the beginning of spiritual life. And the problem is that after we become devotees, we still think, on some level, we can enjoy. And that's where we run into trouble. So if we think we can enjoy in some way, we're identifying with the body, then we run into trouble. That's the problem. And so, I think I told you last week, this purport in the Bhagavatam, this amazing purport. Prabhupada said he said the spiritual master, he's just trying to convince the disciple that they cannot enjoy. It's like it's his goal. It's just if he can get his disciple to this point where he realizes I cannot enjoy. So then the Guru feels, now I'm successful. Now my disciple can actually become Krishna conscious, can actually come to the level of pure bhakti. Now, here's something really interesting. Let me grab your attention. Do I have it? Have I grabbed it? There are different stages of Krishna consciousness which we learn as beginning with Shraddha, faith, which then from faith we want to associate with devotees. When we associate with devotees, we get inspired to practice the practices of Krishna consciousness. Traditional practices are what? Rising early, chanting 16 rounds, following the regular principles. That's called bhajana kriya. Doing service. So you get to the point where you can do that. And then you take initiation. That's the point, you take initiation. And then you come to anartha nivriti. Anartha nivriti means the cessation of anarthas, unwanted things, the dirty things in the heart. And then after that you come to the stage of nishta. Nishta means fixed. You're fixed because there are not a lot of anarthas there deviating you. And it's said on the stage of nishta, that's the beginning of pure devotional service. Pure devotional service being defined as serving Krishna without the motive of any enjoyment. It doesn't mean you are like Srila Prabhupada. You are Uttama Adhikari. No, you're Madhyama Adhikari. Nishta is the beginning of Madhyam. That's where you begin. But a Madhyam is a pure devotee. So, pure devotee means I am serving Krishna with the motive to please Him, not because I want in any way to get something from Krishna. Well, I'll serve you, Krishna, if you give me this. That's not pure devotional service. That's still being influenced by anartha. But when we're on this platform of Krishna, I just want to serve you. My only motive is to please you. And that is your motive 24/7. That's called nishta. Now your motive may be to please Krishna. And 10 minutes later your motive may be, well, Krishna, that I pleased you. Could I get something? That's not nishta. That just means you're manifesting some pure devotion in your service, but 10 minutes later, because you're not on that platform, you're thinking, Krishna, but I'm miserable. Can you make me happy? Or, Krishna, I don't have this. Can you give this to me? So there's some motive. It's called karma. Some motive to get something. Or, Krishna, I'm suffering. If I serve you, will you eliminate my suffering? That's not yet pure devotional service. That's where we come from. But pure devotional service is, then you don't care about whether you're enjoying or not. It's not even a calculation you make. It's not the way you think. Am I happy today? Am I not happy today? You don't think like that. So, that's pure devotional service. But before we get to that level, there's always the tendency to think, how can I can use this for Krishna, but how can I enjoy it also? Because that's our conditioning. Right? Does that make sense? That we're conditioned that way? Yeah, we're always like, everything we look at is like, how can I enjoy it? Or you look at it and think, no, I can't enjoy this. No. But that's not how a devotee thinks. A devotee thinks, how can I use this in Krishna's service? Not if it's enjoyable to me or not. But is it enjoyable to Krishna? How can it be used in Krishna service? If it can't be used in Krishna service, then I have no use for it. Even though if I could use it for sense gratification, but if I can't use it in Krishna service, okay, there's no use for it. So that's what's being said here. This what did we read? Cover says, our liberation or subjugation simply depends on whether we use our minute independence properly or misuse it. So, as soon as we use our minute independence to serve Krishna, then we're considered liberated. At least, you might say, but Prabhu, I'm not liberated. But for that moment you were, because your actions were only for Krishna. Your actions were not motivated by anything material. So, liberation means not under the influence of the modes of nature. So for that point in time, for that 5 seconds that you picked up a piece of paper that you found on the floor of the temple or in your temple room, and you put it, and you did that because you don't want Krishna to have to live in a dirty room, and you're only only desire was to please Krishna, for that moment you're liberated. Now, the next moment you might sit down and do something stupid, and so now you're not liberated anymore. But at least at that moment you were liberated. Now, when you always do that, then we could consider you liberated permanently, situated in liberation. But here the point is, it's just about how you use your free will. One way, what does he say? Liberation or subjugation. So as soon as I use my free will to enjoy, then now everything happens under the modes of nature and I'm subjugated. One can practice to be liberated, yes, but you could say by practicing, by your practice of sadhana, at least when you're doing it, you're liberated. And then, one can practice to be liberated, both in terms of with the body, in terms of attitude. Because if you see everything in relation to Krishna, that's a liberated attitude. And if you see it, you only use it in relation to Krishna. Just like sometimes you'll see something, you go, "Wow, that's really nice." But then you realize you can't use that in devotional service, or you don't need something so extravagant. You see this car, you go, "Wow, that car is gorgeous, beautiful." And you realize, well, I don't really need that car to serve Krishna. You see a beautiful mansion, 5,000 square feet. Wow, what a nice place. But you don't really need that. There's no real use for you to have it. I mean, if there is a use, you can see it in relation to Krishna. So the liberated platform is, if it has no use for Krishna, then you just, even if you like it, you can do anything about it. Conditioned platform is, then you say, well, I have to figure out I want to use it I have to figure out how to connect it to Krishna because I really like this. So, okay, that's the practice platform. So you figure somehow or other how to use that 5,000 square foot home in Krishna service because you really want a big home. And you're a devotee now, you can't really justify having that big home unless you somehow or other, at least once a year, hold a big program in your big living room, because your living room can hold 150 people because you have a 5,000 square foot house. Something like that. Right? But more importantly, it's all about attitude. It's all about what's in your heart. I mean, what distinguishes karma yoga from bhakti is the heart. The attitude. So, by practice, you come to the stage of nishta, which means now your attitude is not influenced by the anarthas. The anarthas are saying, go do this, go enjoy that, you want this, this guy, tell him he's a jerk, you don't like him, he took something from you, that other person got ahead of you, try to bring him down. That's all anartha platform. So you can be engaged in devotional service while those anarthas are there. You don't have to wait, you can start right away. That's the process. But those anarthas have some effect on you. But at anartha nivritti, pretty much those anarthas are powerless. You don't really, you might acknowledge, see that they're there, they don't do much. So when you're in that stage, then you can stop thinking about, will this make me happy? Will this not make me happy? It's almost like, I think I said it last week. And this sounds very insensitive, but I'm going to say it because I don't think it really, if you understand it philosophically, it's not. Sometimes we're looking at ourselves and we're thinking, I'm not happy. And from a higher Krishna conscious perspective, we can say, so what? It doesn't matter. That my life is not about if I'm happy, my life is about making Guru and Krishna happy. So we have to switch our consciousness. And that's the stage of nishta. In the stage of nishta, not that you're not worried about being happy, you don't even notice. It's not on your radar. It's not a priority in your life whether you're happy or not. What's a priority is Guru and Krishna satisfied. That's what happens at the stage of nishta. So before that, will this make me happy? Will I like this? That we're in that consciousness. That's because we come from that world of enjoyer. I'm the enjoyer. But what if I do this? What will I get? But if I give this money to Krishna, then that means I can't get this. And I don't know. That's such a good idea. And But if I do this service, that means that someone else was going to do this other thing, and that I don't know if, we're going to be happy. And that's the more neophyte consideration. It's still about me. Sometimes when we chant japa, we're chanting japa, but we're in anxiety about our life. We're thinking, I have to do this, and this is happening, that's happening. So what's going on? We're chanting japa, but we're putting ourselves in the center of japa. So then it's all about us. It's not about Krishna. So, Hare Krishna, I'm not happy, this, that, and the next thing. So, we're chanting japa and we're absorbed in ourselves. That's the conditioned state. It's crazy, isn't it? Sudevi, is it crazy? Yes, it's crazy. She's not on chat, but I know she knows it's crazy. So, japa is to please Krishna. It's not about if I'm happy or not. It's about if Krishna is happy. Yeah. You're batting with yourself because we're in this consciousness, I am the enjoyer, not Krishna. Just make Krishna the enjoyer. I'm servant. Everything's fine. Krishna, just help me serve you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That's what your mind does when you're in the right consciousness. You see, the mind becomes Krishnized. So then what is your mind thinking about? Krishna, please help me serve you. Krishna, please empower me. Krishna, please help me, allow me to please you by my chanting. I want this chanting to please you. You see? Yes, I knew Sudevi knew it was crazy. Yeah. So it's just conditioning. Now, I don't know if I told you this, but I want to talk a little bit about conditioning, and I had discussed this in a workshop I did. So Shita was at the workshop, so she knows this already. And I don't know if all of you have heard this, but conditioning is very interesting because the problems that we all experience in not making Krishna the enjoyer, but making ourselves the enjoyer, and being upset when we're not enjoying, I'm not happy, I need to be happy. But the pure devotees, what does it matter if I'm happy or not? It doesn't matter. It just whether Krishna's happy, that's all that matters. That's a pure devotee, right? So how do we end up in this mess? No, you should feel satisfied when you do a good job, you feel satisfied. Yeah. Because you're pleasing Krishna, you'll feel satisfied. That's the whole point. That when you please Krishna, then you'll really enjoy Sushma, but that's transcendental enjoyment. So we're talking about differentiating between material enjoyment and spiritual enjoyment. Because when you enjoy putting Krishna as the enjoyer, then you're enjoying in the position of the enjoyed, and that is how we're meant to enjoy. So we're enjoying by not trying to enjoy. And materially, we're suffering by trying to enjoy. So we have it all backwards. And that's why Krishna says in the Gita, that when you're in a mode of passion, you think religion is irreligion, and religion is irreligion. So we have it backwards. I mean, we're very good at getting things backwards, because that's what Maya means. Maya means illusion. So we don't see things as they are. And that's one of the problems we face in becoming pure in Krishna consciousness, is that we tend to see things through our conditioning. So we get things backwards we don't understand, and then sometimes we don't understand philosophy. So, Sushma, you chant, you relish, because you're trying to please Krishna with your japa. Not that, okay, I'm going to sit down and enjoy japa. This is going to be enjoyed. Just like I enjoyed that movie last night, and I'm going to enjoy japa, and then after I enjoy japa, I'm going to enjoy eating. Then I'm going to take a little nap, because I really like to nap around, every morning after I eat. So I'll take a little nap. Maybe I'll go out in the hammock and lay on my porch and just rock back and forth, and I'll really enjoy. So no. See, that's the problem. So if you enter into your japa like that, that's material. And you are not going to enjoy it in that consciousness anyway. So if you're actually enjoying japa, you can only enjoy it because you're in the consciousness that this is for Krishna's pleasure. So anything we're doing spiritually that we're enjoying must be a byproduct of being in the right consciousness, that I'm not the enjoyer, which is how we enjoy. So it kind of makes it easy that if we're relishing bliss in Krishna consciousness, it's because we're in the right consciousness. But if you go into Krishna consciousness and you think, and Sushma, and I know you don't think this way, so I'm just using this as an example, but if you think you go in the temple, say, I'm going to go to the temple, I'm going to show them how to chant. And you sit down and chant. Say, of course, Mahatma Prabhu showed me how to chant. And I know the devotees, they don't know this. I'm going to show them. So you sit down and you're really into it to show them how to chant. Then that's motivated by pride. And you won't enjoy that chanting. You won't feel the bliss because you're not trying to please Krishna now. Trying to, be right, self-righteous and show you know more or something like that. You see the difference? So before we go into the question of conditioning, then Ratikeli Radhika has a statement or a question. I have a question. We're not supposed to be happy in Krishna consciousness. We're not enjoy. Yeah, very good question. It's very important that you're happy, but it's very important you're happy in the right way. Because, let's say Ratikeli Radhika, let's say the way you're happy in Krishna consciousness is you take complete control of every devotee. You lord over every devotee. You work your way to the top of ISKCON. You become the first female guru in ISKCON. You get on the GBC. This is how you want to enjoy. You just want to, you have this propensity to control. This is how you're going to enjoy it. Control everybody. That's not the enjoyment we're talking about. That's just a manifestation of false ego. What we're talking about is yes, we need to be happy, but we need to be happy in Krishna consciousness. It's important to be happy, but the happiness comes as a result of ruchi. The happiness, boasting, your false ego on everyone, pushing your is not ruchi. It's maya. It's happiness and passion, and it's going to result in misery. Happiness in Krishna consciousness is a result of ruchi. I mean, of course, it's a result of love. But before the stage of prema, what we're experiencing when we're tasting Krishna consciousness, we're experiencing the taste of ruchi. Now, sometimes that taste of ruchi can be mixed with poison. Or sometimes what we're tasting as so-called happiness in Krishna consciousness, we're just tasting our false ego. So we don't want that, like, hey, I'm blissed out because I gave a great class, and I know it was a great class, and everybody told me it was a great class, and now my false ego is just beaming, and so I'm happy. We don't want that kind of happiness. We want the happiness of being satisfied to be a humble servant. Then, yes, it's very important that we're happy. So now let's go back to this point that the happiness we're getting is ruchi, and ruchi is spiritual. Ruchi is spiritual. So you can't get that unless you're on some very high level of Krishna consciousness. But we get it at lower levels of Krishna consciousness, but it's not ruchi in the sense that we're always tasting, but we're tasting a little bit here and there. When you come to the stage of ruchi, you always taste it. But whatever you're tasting is ruchi, and we should want it, and we can pray to Krishna, please give me that ruchi, because by that taste I'll become detached, and I'll become a better devotee. So even if you want the taste, you want it because it'll make you a better servant. So you want it because it'll please Krishna. Krishna's happy if you're tasting Krishna consciousness. But you don't want it wholly and solely to enjoy. That's the point. I'm enjoying. I just want to enjoy. I'm such an enjoyer. If I can, then we become like Mayavadis. I couldn't enjoy Maya, so now I'm going to enjoy Krishna. No, that's not the point. The point is to be servant. That Krishna is the enjoyer. That's the point. And you enjoy as a byproduct. And if you feel miserable in Krishna consciousness and you realize I need spiritual enjoyment, you need it because you need that to energize your bhakti so you can become a better devotee to please Krishna. Not just because you need to enjoy it. Now, yes, if we're miserable, it's going to be very difficult to be enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness until, as I said, you come to a higher stage. So naturally you think, Krishna, I'm miserable, make me blissful, so I don't want to leave your lotus feet. So that's still within the realm of bhakti, because you want the happiness so you can be a better servant. So as long as you have that is your foundation, that I am a servant, I'm not the enjoyer, everything's fine. But if you come to bhakti with the idea that, okay, now I couldn't enjoy Maya. I'm frustrated. Then it's like a Maya body. It's like I'm going to use God for my enjoyment. It's not that we're trying to become God, but it's like we're using God for our enjoyment. Right? Does that make sense? See, I think you understand. It's the mentality. So yes, you see the deities and you enjoy. You feel bliss. You enjoy in the kirtan. But it's not, you enjoy prasadam, but it's not in the mood of enjoying. And you say, but how do I enjoy prasadam? Prabhupada said, think of the cowherd boys eating prasadam. Think of Krishna's pastimes while you take prasadam. Think that Krishna ate this prasadam and how pleased he must have been to eat such nice prasadam. So you're always keeping yourself, it's some mood connected with Krishna as servant, Krishna as enjoyer. You're fine. So Ratikali Radhika says, sometimes I see devotees crying very depressed and miserable, and I wonder why they are. Because Krishna consciousness is supposed to be a blissful process, because they're not in Krishna consciousness. If you're in Krishna consciousness, you won't be depressed and miserable. They're miserable because they're not in Krishna consciousness and they know they should be. Or they're miserable because they're just in material consciousness and material consciousness is miserable. But I think for devotees, material consciousness is more miserable than it is for non-devotees, because non-devotees have the advantage of ignorance. Ignorance helps. They say, just devotees are miserable and the non-devotees, they seem so happy. I mean, they're out at the beach and having a good time with their families. Yeah, because the ignorance is stronger. When pigs are lined up to be slaughtered, I don't know if you know this, you know what they do? They're in the slaughterhouse, they're lining up, they're having sex. Hey, it's our last chance. So people are like that. Hey, there's death. Who wants to think about it? Let's just enjoy. But for a devotee, maybe a devotee is not experiencing spiritual enjoyment, but the devotee has knowledge that the world is suffering, that they can't enjoy materially. And they know what's right, and if they do something wrong, sometimes they suffer from the guilt. But the whole point is, that should give us an impetus to do the right thing. That should give us the impetus to understand that I know too much, that now because I know this, I can't be happy materially unless I throw myself into total ignorance, which I don't think we want to do, which is stupid. And sometimes we may even be stupid enough to do it, but even if you try to throw yourself into total ignorance and forget everything about Krishna consciousness, you can't, unless you're drunk. It doesn't work. So you know too much to be happy materially. But if you're not evolved in Krishna consciousness, then you don't do enough bhakti to be happy in Krishna consciousness. So then it's just like you're worse than the non-devotees. At least their ignorance, ignorance is bliss. Their ignorance helps them become blissful. So, when you become devotee, you have to understand these things. That you wanna move to the Anartha Nivritti platform as fast as you can, because before you get there, it is difficult. But once you get there, that's when it gets easy. And then when you get to Ruchi, which is 2 stages above Anartha Nivritti, then it's really easy, because now you're just doing it because you like it, because you're inspired to do it. Like Sushma was in Vrindavan, and she loves Vrindavan, everything about Vrindavan, and all her friends think she's crazy, because all her friends have not renounced the world, they're not living in Vrindavan. And Sushma is in like total bliss. She's just relishing sweeping the street. Sometimes she sweeps the street in Vrindavan, and she's in total bliss. And her friends can't figure it out. Her friends are all like aristocratic, wealthy people, professionals, and Sushma is an educated woman, and she's in Vrindavan, living in a simple place, sweeping the street, and she's in bliss. So when you come to that stage of Krishna consciousness where these anarthas are not driving you crazy, then you can be blissful just sweeping the street in Vrindavan and living in a simple place. Right, Sushma? Yeah, she knows that. So Sushma's come to this point where she can relish simple things in Krishna consciousness. So we want to get, Bhajana Kriya. We want to get to this point of Bhajana Kriya where we can chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles steadily every day. We want to get to that point. Then we can take Diksha, get connected that will push us further in Krishna consciousness to the stage of anartha nivritti, and then the stage of anartha nivritti. Then, as I said, we can be in this point where we're not even thinking about, am I happy or not? We're just thinking, is Krishna pleased? That's the only thing that's concerned. I mean, wouldn't that be a nice position to be in? Where it's like somebody asks you to do something and it doesn't even dawn in your mind whether you'll like it or not. It just has nothing to do. It's just, will Krishna be pleased? Will my Guru be pleased? Will the Vaishnavas be pleased? That's all you think about. Why? Because these anarthas are not pulling you, so you're not thinking about yourself anymore. All the anarthas do is to make us think about ourselves. Will this make me happy? How happy will this make me? I'm not going to do that. I don't like this guy. I think I'll divorce him. I don't like this girl. She doesn't make me happy anymore. That's why the Western society is in such a mess, and people are so depressed. Depression is a disease caused generally by affluence. You don't see this kind of depression in poor people. I had an amazing experience a couple of weeks ago. My daughter and I went, if you go from Mayapur across the Jalangi River, there's another, Mayapur is on an island, and it's separated from Navadvip by the Ganga, and separated from Sarupganj, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur lived, by the Jalangi. So we went over there. My daughter and I, we were driving around there. I was looking at some property over there. So we drive through these villages out in the middle of nowhere. And the people have their homes. Most of their homes are made from a mud base, because the mud is like clay here, and then the walls are made from bamboo. You slice the bamboo. It's like a bamboo mat, but those are the walls. And some people have brick homes. So, and they have some cows, and by Western standards, they're below poverty level. By Indian standards, they're growing their food. They can live. They're okay. But if you're the third kid in the family, you're not going shopping to get new clothes. You're wearing the hand-me-downs, no matter how dirty and how many holes. That's what it's like there. But at least you have clothes. You have food on your plate. You probably sleep 5 of you in one bed, and the bed is the floor, a mat on the floor. That's how they live. And you go through that village, and you look at the people's faces there, the smiles on their face. You don't see those smiles on the faces of people in the West unless they're drunk. So this kind of depression that we experience in the West, this is a disease of affluence. This is a disease of extreme comfort. This is a disease of program. This is like diseases programmed by the media. It's all about me, and I'm not happy. And we're obsessed with, I'm not happy, and I have to be happy. And then we get married, and our spouse doesn't make us happy, and we go crazy. We want to divorce them. It's all insanity, from my perspective. Anyway, so let's go look at your comments. Yes, the best happiness is making Lord Krishna happy. It's the only happiness, actually. Senior devotees, so Radhika Soli said sometimes senior devotees are depressed, but that means they're not in Krishna consciousness. I mean, okay, sometimes we're depressed, the loved one may die and this and that, but that should not be our sthayi bhava, our permanent position. So sometimes we may be upset, depressed about something, but advanced devotee means their natural position is that they're happy in Krishna consciousness. It has to be. I mean, it's just scientifically that's how it is. All right, things in our movement may not go so well. Things in the family, there may be an accident, this and that, so there may be some upset. Okay, that's natural. But their general nature is not that they're miserable. If you're Krishna conscious, you can't be miserable. It's not possible. It's a white can't be black, and black can't be white. Krishna consciousness is blissful. It's a constitutional position. Within that, there can be Krishna conscious depression, Krishna conscious anxiety, Krishna conscious lamentation. But that's not material. And if it's material, that means we become overcome by some material situation. But if we're more advanced, that will just be temporary. We'll very easily get back. Your wife leaves you, your husband leaves you, your child's in an accident or it dies. Yeah, you'll be devastated for a while. But the more you go back into Krishna consciousness, the more you'll stabilize in your natural position. Okay. Okay. So, clear. Okay. Yeah. So everybody understands spiritual enjoyment, spiritual happiness. Yeah. The cowherd boys steal Krishna's lunch and then they throw it around. Why do they do that? Because Krishna gets a better lunch than they do. So they steal it. And they, every day they're eating together. So they like to steal Krishna's lunch. And so you can think of that when you take prasadam. But is it, as Sushma said, is it possible to get ruchi even at the neophyte stage? Yeah, so let me explain that again. Sushma says, Krishna spoils us in Vrindavan. Become a misfit, you can't live anywhere else. Sushma spent a lot of time in Vrindavan, so she's finding it hard to adjust to any other place. Yes, I have a similar experience. Because I live in Mayapur, and it's a little. Once you live here, it's a little hard to adjust. It's so special. So let me go back to your question about ruchi. Ruchi is translated as taste, and we can also translate that as happiness. And ruchi is inherent within bhava or prema. Every stage of bhakti is inherent within a higher stage. So whatever is there in prema is there in whatever is in bhava is in prema, whatever is in ruchi is in prema. Whatever, it's all just a part of it. So ruchi is, ruchi is a part of bhava. But before we come to ruchi or bhava, the ruchi is not a stage. It's just sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're tasting, sometimes you're not, which is why sometimes we taste japa and sometimes we don't. But when you're in the stage of ruchi, it's not at any time will you feel, oh, I don't feel like chanting now, or I don't want to chant, or you'll be chanting and you'll be bored, or you'll be chanting and you'll be thinking that I don't want to do this. That's before the stage of ruchi, even really before the stage of nishta, where you'll oscillate. So your bhakti won't be steady. But when you come to anartha nivritti, the next stage is nishta, which means your bhakti is steady. Because there's nothing to make it unsteady. And then, because it's steady and the anarthas are subdued, then you can be purely focused on pleasing Krishna. That's when you get the ruchi. That's when the ruchi starts coming. Because now you're trying to please Krishna. If you just think about pleasing Krishna, you immediately experience ruchi. Because you're not absorbed in thinking about yourself anymore. It's just like, it's so simple, but it's so hard for us to get because our conditioning is so deep that if I don't do something for my enjoyment, I won't be happy. We're so, what's the word I'm looking for? We're so geared in that thinking. That, well, how could I be happy unless I do something for myself? So people are, madly doing things for themselves because that's the only way they understand how to be happy. But if we just think, will this please Krishna? Can I use this for Krishna? That's immediately when we immediately become happy when we do that. Immediately. It's just how it works. So then you get ruchi. So yes, you can get ruchi in the kirtan, you can get ruchi hearing class, you can get ruchi chanting, you can get ruchi in service. All because you do it in the right consciousness. But it won't be steady until you come to the stage of ruchi, which can only come after nishta. So So you may get a lot of ruchi as a neophyte devotee, just like Enzimzu is beginning Krishna consciousness. But in Enzimzu you can, in Nimzu, Holy K, you can get a lot of taste in Krishna consciousness. If you chant your rounds thinking, I just want to please Krishna. If you do your service, your work, just thinking, I'm doing this for Krishna. All my activities, I want to make sure, well, is this pleasing Krishna? I'm not going to do it if it's not pleasing Krishna. You'll be blissful all the time. But now, because you're beginning Krishna consciousness, it may not be possible 24 hours a day to think that way. So you may slip and think, well, I don't want to do this because it won't make me happy. And then you catch yourself. So I'm thinking about myself. But you understand, you can do that. Maybe it'll give you some gratification and you'll call it happiness on your happiness meter. But that happiness meter, when you get Krishna consciousness, it blows the meter. Because Krishna consciousness is off the happiness meter chart. Material happiness meter can't register it. And so, in material consciousness, it's all relative. Well, if this is less suffering than that, I call it happiness. But it's not really happiness. Prabhupada said that many times. He said, this is not happiness. This is just, you're relieving yourself of some suffering, and you call it happiness. And you have a toothache. My tooth was aching for like 5 days. I couldn't figure it out. It still hurts a little bit, but I couldn't eat. And now it's not hurting. It's not hurting so much, so I can eat. Wow, my tooth feels really good. I'm really happy now. Am I really happy? Does my tooth feel really good? Teeth don't really feel good, but this tooth feels good. What do I mean? It doesn't hurt anymore. So because it doesn't hurt anymore, it feels good. And I'm really happy. Am I really happy? Not really, but I'm happy I can eat. Because before I was suffering when I was eating. So now I'm back in my normal state, and my normal state is now considered happy relative to the pain that I was undergoing before. So Prabhupada said, that's material happiness. You relieve your life's pain, basically, and you relieve some pain. You go, whoopee! That's happiness. And then it goes back to pain again. That's why everybody drinks, to dull the pain, and they call dulling pain, taking something toxic, put something toxic in your body, you become intoxicated, and you call that happiness. All you did was dull the pain, so you feel happy. So that's what we're dealing with in material consciousness. It's all crazy misery. And you dull the pain, and you're like, I'm happy. 6th beer, I'm really happy. 12th beer, I'm blissed out. So I'm unconscious now. So you've done a good job at dulling your consciousness, because your consciousness is so miserable that if you have to experience it, you just suffer. So now you're happy. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's material life in a nutshell. Welcome to the material world, and good luck. Hope you have a good time. So, as I said before, the faster you come to Krishna consciousness, the faster you get through this whole Anartha Nivritti thing, because that's really where you want to come to. Because when you come to Anartha Nivritti, then you're a Madhyamadikari, then you're engaged in pure devotional service, and then that's when things really start happening. That's when it kicks in. That's when we're moving and grooving. Right? So, that makes sense to anybody? Okay, that was the answer to Shushma's question, can you get ruchi before? Yes, you can. But you have to stop tasting the material things to get the spiritual things. Prabhus. Hey, I have a side point for you. Prabhu. The word Prabhu means master. Now, in India, generally Prabhu means man and Mataji means woman. And they say Prabhus and Matajis. We're going to have prasadam, the Matajis over here and the Prabhus over here. Do you know that Prabhupada never addressed women as a group as Matajis, unless they were mothers? And he's specifically referring to the mothers, the ones with kids, go over here, because we're taking care of the mothers here. He never addressed a group as mothers. In ISKCON we address Prabhus and mothers. Interesting, isn't it? I just thought I'd throw that out to bewilder you, to agitate you, I don't know, to make you think. Or maybe it has no relevance to you, anyway. Pallavi says, sometimes back we were talking about how we should offer prasadam to Krishna. We should buy the prasadam separately from other food items so that we don't have thought of eating it before it's offered to Krishna. Makes so much sense. But after realizing this, I'm not able to offer prasadam to Krishna. It's everything I bought, keeping the word food in mind. Now you don't separate it. Everything you buy is for Krishna. That's it. Everything you cook, it gets first offered to Krishna. That's it. Simple. You buy it for Krishna, you cook it for Krishna, you offer it to Krishna, and then you give it to your family. That's it. Now, when you're buying it, you have to see it as for Krishna. Then it's spiritual. See it for Krishna. You got to see it for Krishna from right from the beginning. Okay, so you go shopping. You go, I like bananas. I like these bananas. So you buy those bananas. Okay. So you're making some consideration because you're not going to offer something that you don't eat or no one in your... You're not going to just, well, I'll just buy this. Krishna likes spinach. Nobody in my family likes spinach. So we'll just offer spinach and throw it away. No, so you have to be practical. You're not worshipping installed deities. So your family likes spinach, you like spinach, you think, yeah, we like spinach. But then at that point you think, okay, for Krishna's pleasure, we're going to cook the spinach. So you have to think that way. He enjoys it first. That's the whole point. Even if you like it, okay, fine, but he enjoys it first. Right? That's the idea. Even if we like it, he's the supreme enjoyer, we give it to him first. Now, it's been offered to him, we can enjoy it now. It's okay, because it's prasadam. That's the idea. Okay? So, it's not, this is for me, this is for Krishna. I eat this and offer this. No, everything you eat is offered to Krishna first. Now you can enjoy it. It's okay. So, I hope that makes sense. Okay. We're just about over time, a half hour, as we have been the last 3 or 4 weeks. Somehow or other, I don't know. Time flies. At least I'm on Mayapur time. It doesn't seem like an hour and a half. Of course, it's morning for me, so I'm not tired. I used to, in America, I tend to be tired in the evening when I would do the classes, because right now it would be almost 9:30, right? And I was so tired, one class I gave, I actually didn't know if anything I said made sense. I had no idea if I was coherent. Because if you get up early, you get up early, 3, 4 in the morning, by 9 o'clock, your brain starts to shut down. Yes. So, does anyone have anything else to say? Pallavi wants me to continue. Pallavi will stay here all day. She won't do anything. She'll just let me talk. But does anyone have any questions on this? So we got about almost finished. We finished 1 paragraph in an hour and a half. We're doing good. The last point was our liberation or subjugation depends on whether we use our minute independence properly or misuse it. So I was going to talk about conditioning. So I'll mention it a little bit and then we'll talk about it. Conditioning begins when we misuse our independence. That's it. And then we begin to consider how we can enjoy. And so we basically, what we're doing is we're programming ourselves through the help of Paramatma, who's just providing us the thinking, the mentality that's required for material enjoyment. So, devotees often say, oh, my mind, my heart, but whatever you're complaining about in your mind and heart was programmed by you, because that's the way you wanted to think in order to enjoy. So just like we read about these 5 kinds of ignorance. So when we come into the material world and we want to enjoy, it's necessary to create a certain kind of ignorance. So we reinforce this ignorance in our life because it works for us. If the goal is to enjoy materially, it works for us to stay in ignorance. And you see this. A lot of times when people become devotees, they lose a bit of their impetus for material life. They don't have it anymore. So it's like, what's the purpose of doing this? That's the point. Because as long as you're in ignorance, you'll see purpose and you'll be motivated by it. And so then you have to do a 360 to get motivated to do it for Krishna and then see the purpose within Krishna. And then you're inspired. Right? So, the goal in material life is to enjoy, to become the controller and enjoyer. So then we program our minds to think as enjoyers and controllers. Because that, and all the envy and jealousy and all these things, it works to get material enjoyment. At least we think it works. Actually, if you come to Sattva Gun and not be envious and so forth, you'll get more enjoyment. But we don't see it that way because we're coming from this platform of envy of Krishna. So we tend, especially in Kali Yuga, to see enjoyment on a very gross level. So we program and condition ourselves, but that's why we're resentful, we're envious. We become angry, we're lustful, greedy, because we think these are all the things that'll give us enjoyment and make us happy. Then we become devotees, and we have a problem. What's the problem? The problem is we've programmed ourselves very well. And now we learn about Krishna consciousness, which is a deprogramming process. Now we get arrested because I said wrong. No, deprogramming is good. They don't like, what are the cult groups? They say you're brainwashed. Oh yeah. They don't like the word brainwashing. But deprogramming, that's good. But we're actually deprogramming materially. They're trying to deprogram devotees from Krishna consciousness. We're trying to deprogram people from the material conditioning. So we come to Krishna consciousness, now it's a deprogramming process, right? But we are very well programmed. And that's why it's so difficult. And that's why all these struggles are there in the beginning of devotional service. Because the programming is so well done, it's so deep. The consciousness that I'm the enjoyer is so pervasive that practically everything we look at, everything we smell, everything we hear, everything we touch and taste, it's all about how much enjoyment can I get out of it. Will this make me happy? We're conditioned. We look at everything. Will it make me happy? Will it cause me distress? So now we become Krishna conscious and we're trained to think, will this make Krishna happy? And that doesn't come easy. But as I said, when you come to the Nartha Nivritti level, you come to Nishta, that's how you think. You think everything in relation to Krishna. So that's this conditioned stage, this highly conditioned stage comes before Nishta. But just understand, we are the ones that programmed ourselves that way. And we are the ones who are suffering from that program. And so we have to reprogram. Stop going with that program. Stop reinforcing the program. Right? Pull the wind out of the sails of that programming. Then it's okay. And how do we... That's through bhakti. That's through changing our attitude. That's through service and sadhana. That we gradually reprogram ourselves. And if we're in the right program, then even if we're not on the Nishta level, but we're thinking in the right way, Krishna consciousness becomes blissful. And that's why you see young devotees can be very blissful. Did that answer your question? Okay, we have another. So, Radhikali Radhika says, using a skill versus learnt initially for Krishna's service, like jewelry making, maybe for our purpose later. No, that's perfect. No, you should do that. Whatever. It's like if you have a skill, think of the skill like wealth. And so you have wealth, you want to share your wealth. You want to use your wealth to spread Krishna consciousness. You want to use your wealth to glorify Krishna. So if you can make jewelry, that's part of your wealth. And then you do that for Krishna. Otherwise, you're going to do it anyway, because you like to do it. So you just make jewelry, you'll sell it, you'll get rich. Okay, that's fine. But then use the money in Krishna's service, or just make the jewelry directly for the deities, or do both. That's all Krishna consciousness. Yeah. That's the whole point. Don't be afraid to use what you have. Just be afraid to enjoy it for yourself. That's the fear. We are a cult. Yes. How to argue against people saying we're a cult? Well, there's a lot of arguments. Cult actually means culture, but people don't understand that. So they have this idea of cult of people who are brainwashed. Of course, it's the people who are brainwashed who are making the accusation. You know, there's a saying, there's an interesting saying to say, always beware of the person who makes the accusation. I think it's a principle of psychology. Whoever makes it, oh, I didn't do that, he did it. Whoever makes the accusation is the one who you should be suspicious of. So that's just between us. I don't know if you could explain that to people, but the people who make the accusations of cults, they're also in a cult. It's called the Pepsi generation. Is that not a cult? Or the me generation, or the Coca-Cola is the real thing? People think Coca-Cola is the real thing. Is that not a cult? I mean, really, if you just want to look at it sociologically, there are hundreds of cults around the world. People are into motorcycles, especially Harley Davidson. There's a cult, not just Hell's Angels. There's all kinds of them, right? And even you have these Christian revivals just for motorcycle guys, and they're all there in their leather jackets and their beards and their bandanas, and they're all like these pucka Christians, praying, big tough guys with their knives and whatever. So within the culture of America or the West, the Christians even found subcultures who they preach to. So there's a cult of motorcycle. People have recreational vehicles, these motorhomes. They drive down the road, retired people. That's a whole cult. They think in a different way. They have magazines. They dress. People who are into bicycle riding, it's a cult. Look at how they dress. They wear these weird clothes when they get on their bicycles. And they ride for hours. These guys are weird. Their whole lives could be ruined. Their families could be destroyed. They ride their bicycles for hours. Sometimes they go on trips and they ride all day. These guys are weird. The bicycle riders cult. And then some of the most weird guys enter these marathons and they practice like every day for hours and hours and beating their body to a pulp. And when they're older, their bodies are going to fall apart. These guys are weird, dangerous cult. And some of them, like Lance Armstrong, take dangerous drugs to win. These guys are cult. You better reveal this to the world. The bicycle riders cult. It's dangerous. Hey, football, go to a football game. No, don't go to a football game. But if you did go to a football game, right? It's a cult. Hot dogs and beer and screaming people. It's a cult. And they do weird things and wear weird colored clothes. And they act like crazy people. And they spend the whole day in the parking lot eating pig meat. It's a cult. Beware. Football games. Watch out. I mean, come on, dangerous cult, Yeah. Material life is so dangerous. Anyway, it's just, the argument is it's so stupid, I don't even know if we should answer it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Well, you can make jewelry for yourself, but for every ring you make for yourself, Rati Kelly, you have to make one for the deities. Okay? You can make it and sell it and take that money and distribute books or do something. Somehow connected to Krishna in some way. Yeah. Or become a famous jewelry designer and you become so famous that whatever you say, everyone will listen to. And then you say, chant Hare Krishna, and they'll all chant Hare Krishna. You could do it that way. Different ways of doing it. So, let's go back to the cult people. The cult accusation. The Krishna consciousness actually deprograms brainwashing, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have to, just go online and read about the effects of the media. I mean, my God, if that's not brainwashing, I don't know what is. It's not innocent at all. It's insidious. They're trying to control people. For an economy to work, you have to control people. For an economy to work, you have to instill desires in people to buy things they don't need. You have to. And you have to build them in a way that they're going to become obsolete. Otherwise, the way our economy is working, it won't function any other way, which is why the basis of this economy is undermined spirituality. That's how it works. It's just the way it works. It has to incite lust by producing products that people, most of which people don't really need, and products which become outdated. True? True or true? That's the way it works. It's just the reality. So, Krishna conscious. You see, here's another way of looking at it in Zimzu. If you do a, what do they call them? Population survey. If you do a population survey of the universe or the universes, the majority of the people are following in some way the Vedic culture or some way connected to the Vedic culture. It's only a minority. And that's why in Shastra you have this word malecha. Malecha means those out of the Vedic culture. Those were the oddballs. They were not the majority. So the oddballs of the universe are these people who are saying we're a cult. You just have to understand it that way. They have no idea. The majority of the universe follows the Vedas. That's normal. That's, the demigods all follow it. These, in the past ages, these kings who were demoniac, but they followed Vedic principles. They understood this is the standard. They lived by dharmic principles for Kshatriyas, even though they just didn't accept Krishna. But still they were in the Vedic paradigm. They didn't come around and tell the sadhus, oh, you're all brainwashed because you're Krishna bhaktas. They understood what is culture. So people who say that, they don't understand what culture is. What is their culture? To live like a dog. That's their culture. So if somebody wants to live a cultured life, they think he's brainwashed. What can we say? Anyway, there can be so many arguments you can give. So, Hare Krishna to all of you. I think we should stop here. We've gone almost an hour and 45 minutes. Okay, thank you for coming. And next week, yes, we will be here next week. No problem. Okay, so we'll see you next week. And Hare Krishna to you all. And all of you bring 5 friends. And we'll have a wonderful class. You bring 5 people, devotees or non-devotees. And every week we'll bring 5. Pretty soon there'll be 5,000. And if we keep that 5... actually, pretty soon there'll be 5. We'll get the whole 9 billion, and I don't know, some mathematician you can figure it out. If we all bring 5, in probably a matter of months, we'll get 9 billion people to class, and we can create a revolution. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna to you all. We will see you next week. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.